Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless this gathering. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the Prophet and his family. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and our families, inshallah. So today I will be talking to you about the subtle influences on the Muslim family. The subtle influences on the Muslim family, and how to send strong-willed, pious, independent Muslim young adults into the real world. And yes, parents, how to be okay with that. So alhamdulillah, the two speakers that went prior to me did an amazing job setting the foundation. And I learned so much from them, as I am also a mother to a teenager and a 3-year-old, alhamdulillah. So now I'm going to depict what a subtle influences can do to a family. So I want everyone to just close their eyes, okay, recollect, and really picture and envision what's going on here, okay? It is winter, and you visit this family's home. Upon entering, you notice a happy holiday Christmas wreath on their front door. The mother greets everyone and excitedly shows all the guests her new Range Rover. The father comes downstairs from his office to greet everyone. He was busy working all day to pay for their new luxuries. He is rarely home at nights, and his job requires him to travel a lot. Both parents work. Having the big, beautiful house and 4 luxury cars in their driveway is very important to them. The children are very busy with achieving academic excellence. They rarely pray. The family also rarely spends time with each other due to attaining worldly goals. During this visit, Asr time comes, and it is time to pray, but no one gets up. As you drive away, you wave to their college-age daughter, who is wearing short shorts, engulfed in her phone, posting her latest selfie. Has this family been affected by subtle influences? Please raise your hands if you think so. Has this family been affected by subtle influences? Absolutely, absolutely. What are some subtle influences they've been affected by? Can anyone answer that? I just want you guys to be a little engaged. What are the subtle influences they were that they were affected by? Yes? Social media. Anyone else? Right, not praying. So that's not being prioritized. Exactly. Yes, thank you. So materialism, media, societal trends, like dressing immodestly. So let's reflect. Academic excellence without Islamic knowledge and closeness to Allah, what is the real achievement? Working long hours for material gain at the expense of your family, what is the cost? Unfortunately, this is the reality of many Muslim families nowadays. This scenario mentioned above may be a family friend you know, a neighbor, or maybe even your own family. And this is not to pass judgment, but to show you how easily we can lose our center if we are not aware. So now let's look at some statistics of Muslim young adults. If you look at the screen over there, you'll notice. According to the FYI Institute, in 2015, among Muslim college students, 48% of Muslim females have engaged in premarital intimacy. I'm sure this is surprising for a lot of parents here. 28% of Muslim males have tried illicit drugs, and so on. And these are real facts. So how do we solve this problem? So young adults can make good choices and not get tempted by subtle influences. So I'm going to make an analogy. Okay, so you see this peach over here? So as one eats an entire peach, so I'm going to make an analogy. As one eats an entire peach, a core, the seed is left behind. Like the peach, we all have a core inside of us, and that core needs to be strong. If you want to have strong-willed, pious young adults, they need to know what their core is made of. What principles make up their core, your family's core. It has to be the guiding force. So how do we do that? How do we keep our core strong when we are affected by all these subtle influences, as we just mentioned. We have to have protective factors. Protective factor number 1, be aware. Protective factor number 2, look at all the variables when making a decision. Play the movie. Protective factor number 3, be principle-centered and define Islamic principles clearly. Good habits will be maintained, better decisions will be made, hence a successful Islamic family, powerful young adults, inshallah, right? So before I discuss this process in detail, let's talk about what is the goal for our young adults. Can anyone tell me, what are the goals for our young adults? How? How are successful, but can we define it a little bit more specifically? Why do we take care of our kids? Why do we raise them? Why do we work so hard? For what? Okay, so pious individuals. What else? When they're young adults. What else? Yes? A good mannerism.
A good working member of the society.
Exactly, right? So they're able to be self-sufficient, pious individuals, choose a good partner, right? A spouse. What else? Choose a good career, right? So these are our goals. So how do we get them there? How do we get them there? So let's talk about this process. So as you see, if you look at that slide over there, you'll see the college-bound Muslim young adult and the 3 steps that they should follow, inshallah, to become that successful, pious individual. Be aware. Change your paradigm. A paradigm is how you see something, the lens you look at the world with. Teach youth to change their paradigm and start seeing the subtle influences that may be affecting them, such as TV shows they watch, the music lyrics they listen to, the friends they choose, the trends they are accepting to be normal. Teach them external influences greatly impact their thoughts, their actions, their habits, and finally their character. Many people are extremely unaware of this inch-by-inch process. Awareness is always the first step, so start making this shift. So teaching your youth this, right? Becoming aware of, wait a second, if I just listen to this song, it's not just a song, I have to pay attention to the lyrics, right? What am I feeding my mind? What am I feeding my soul on a daily basis, right? So teaching this technique to your youth at a very, very young age to become aware. Number 2, look at the variables involved when making decisions and learn to play the movie. Basically, you want to teach your youth not to make unidirectional decisions. Many of us have a tendency to look at one positive aspect of something, right, and become biased and make important decisions without thoroughly investigating all the other factors. We fail to look at all the negative variables that also may be affecting the decision. It's like the halo effect, and I'm going to explain this in a little detail by giving you an example, but just stay with me. The halo effect is a well-documented social psychology phenomenon that causes people to be biased in their judgment by transferring their feelings about one dimension of something to another unrelated attribute. Let me give you an example. So when you're choosing a school for your children, right? A lot of you are going to have to choose a college for your child, a high school for your child, right? A middle school for your child. You have the best of intentions. You also know as Muslims, it's encouraged to attain knowledge, correct? So you look at one dimension, academics, when choosing a school for your child, and think, everything else will be great too. So you send your child to the best school in the nation, in the whole entire nation. However, you forget to look at all the other variables, right? You forget the other variables like peer pressure, right? That might be involved in that school, contradictory school norms, dress code, school culture, right? So now every day your child is put in a position where they have to constantly fight between maintaining their values and fitting in. Maintaining their values and fitting in. Ya Allah. Right? Ya Allah. So we're like, okay, they're in the best school, but we forget about all the other struggles we're putting them through. So we must learn to look at all the variables involved. We need to ask ourselves this question. Is this still the right decision with all the variables involved when making family decisions? And then teaching your youth this. So if you teach this skill to your young adults, what will happen? They will look at all the variables when choosing a spouse, correct? They will do this, they will follow the same procedure when choosing a career. They'll look at all the variables. Okay, I want to be a cardiologist, but I also want to be a mother who can raise pious kids. So is this the best, decision for me, right? And if I'm able to balance it, yes, absolutely. But if I'm not, I might have to. So you learn to make decisions based on all the variables involved, right? So a young adult just won't choose a partner by looking at physical attraction, right? Now you're teaching your youth at a very young age, look at all the variables. Do not make unidirectional decisions. And as parents, we can start applying this to ourselves. Also teach them to play the movie. What do I mean by play the movie? When making decisions, teach them to ask themselves this question. If I make this decision, what will happen a year from now? What will happen 5 years from now, right? Do the benefits outweigh the cost? This just doesn't apply to education or just job choices. This applies to how we spend our time daily on a regular basis. Every choice is leading to our end movie, right? Every choice we make on a regular basis, it's a choice that's leading to our end movie. Remember that. Number 3, be principle-centered. Know what principles make up your core clearly. So let me explain this in a little detail. It's a little complex, these ideas, but I want you to just stay focused with me, inshallah. So a principle-centered person versus a situation, society, appeasement-centered person. According to research, when you are principle-centered, you make better decisions. You are more centered because your decisions are always based on principles. Principles by nature are concrete, fundamental truths. It's not fleeting. So decisions are not based on emotions or fleeting life situations anymore. Decisions are not based on appeasing society or good intentions alone, and they aren't one-directional. Basically, you aren't in a constant state of reactivity, letting your emotions, situations guide you anymore. So let me give you an example. Many individuals think, I'm a good Muslim by praying, fasting, and charity. They think that will keep me grounded. But they slowly get trampled with society's demands, subtle influences, finding it very hard to balance life, slowly steering away from their values. When you're not principle-centered, you lose your sense of direction gradually and sometimes very quickly, right? So furthermore, the principle itself cannot be cookie-cutter principles like honesty. You have to teach your youth to get deeper. So let me explain what I mean by that. So let's think about some concrete principles they can follow. Closeness to Allah, right? That's a principle they can follow. Attaining wisdom, mannerism from our sunnah, service, making difference in the world, closeness with family, integrity, and piety, self-respect, inner peace, and positivity. So now decisions are not based on societal norms anymore, of having a nice car, being popular, right? Peers, work requirements anymore. Your core is now guided by clear principles. That is the key. Let me give you an example in in play, right? Principle-centered person would approach a real life situation. Let me give you an example. I am feeling so angry right now. I had a long week. I feel like cursing to get my frustrations out. So you're going to stop and ask yourself, what principle is at play right now? What principle can help me right now? I know one principle that bakes on my core, piety and positivity. Okay, I'm not going to curse right now. Do you see how this works? Negative action averted, alhamdulillah. Do you understand? Do you see how this works? Put your thumbs up if you understand this concept. Okay, excellent, great job. So remember, every day, like I said, is a choice. That's a choice leading towards or away from our Islamic center. Now I'm going to share some powerful moves to foster strong-willed, pious young adults. I have the strategies here so you can take them afterwards in case you miss any of them, inshallah. So number 1, be aware of what is being normalized in society. Put downs, lack of compassion, vulgarity. The more you teach your youth to be aware, they're able to detect and stop dysfunction quickly. Number 2, as parents, don't put your children in situations where they have no choice but to fit in by giving up their Islamic principles, or their only choice is to become an outcast. Do we understand that, parents? right? So making those decisions. Number 3, teach them to have healthy boundaries with people. Teach them clear boundaries of what is right and what is wrong. Teach them to stand up for themselves. Teach them to know when people are using them and what dysfunction looks like. Because a lot of things are becoming normalized in our communities. A lot of things are becoming normalized in our schools. And we have to be aware of those dynamics. Number 4, teach them not to have idealistic thinking. And this is particularly to young adults, because remember, they're at a stage where intimacy, right, versus, according to Erickson, closeness in relationship is very important to them. So this is something that you have to be aware of where they are developmentally, right? So teach them not to have idealistic thinking. There will be no perfect marriage, right? No perfect job. Everything takes work. Teach them this. Make them aware of holidays that perpetuate emptiness. That's another important, right? There's Valentine's Day, all these holidays that are around us, they're surrounded with when they go to school, when they go to college, right? So you have to teach them that these holidays insinuate the perfect family, the perfect relationship. And we all know this does not exist, right? Teach them that this life is a test. It entails hardship and ease. Which one will they focus on, right? Which one will they focus on? Teach them assertiveness skills. Teach them that they set the standards, not their peers. Too much of this is going on in our communities, right? Our youth are being overwhelmed with everybody else's opinion, everybody else's values. What about their values, right? What about their values? So say to them, no, it's not okay if you are vulgar to me, right? So teaching them these skills. Let's move on, because I have 5 minutes left, so I can't go through my list. But inshallah, I have it here, and I will post it on my website, inshallah, so you can look at the strategies in detail. I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter, okay? So I'm going to go here. So one thing is you have to remember, accept that sometimes your children will not, and parents, this is for you, accept that sometimes your children will not end up the way you wanted them to be, right? There's still Allah's plan and your children's own free will, right? Do the best you can and trust Allah, especially when they're young adults, right? Once they're like in their 20, 25, 26, just make sure you can say to God, you did everything in your power to raise them with dignity. After a certain age, it's their journey, but you will continue to guide them, right? And continue to make dua for them. Now I'm going to go here. Being a young adult in 2019 is much different from being a young adult in 2005. Our youth are dealing with immense pressures and temptations. With technological advances, they have access to pornography, vulgarity, profanity on their fingertips. And you have to know this and accept this fact, parents. Our girls are being groomed and preyed on much easily with Instagram, Snapchat, and you have to be aware of it. Like this sister said, you have to know what are they posting, who are their friends on Instagram, Snapchat, etc. We are living in a society that is appeasing some new idea or trend daily. We are questioned when we have our own values. There's also a growing sense of helplessness and distress. However, the Prophet did not sit around and appease current societal trends, did he? No, he did not. Society always had degenerative aspects in them. So parents, don't get discouraged, right? Don't get discouraged. As Muslim parents, take full responsibility of your children. Think smart, teach your young adults to be leaders, and keep your relationship with God strong. Don't ever lose hope. That is a sign of a believer. We don't lose hope even to our last breath. We have a loving God. He will guide us. He will protect our families. Believe it. Believe it with your hearts. So young adults, if you are here, this is your purpose, inshallah. To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make a difference, to be agile, adaptive learners that can quickly adjust to the tests and decrees of God, gain wisdom and impact. Now go leaders, live out your purpose, and don't give up, families. Do not give up, inshallah. Alhamdulillah.
Beautiful reminder. As I was assigned this session for moderation, and I have an infant and toddler at home, I wasn't sure if it was going to be applicable to me, but alhamdulillah, I have a page full of notes, and I'm sure all of us benefited greatly from these panelists. So just again, another round of applause for our panelists. They did an amazing job. And also just some announcements. There is an